All right, the Bucks. It is one of those pleasant episodes for me to make. It is Talking Buccaneers with me, Fumane, talking about our players when they're doing very well. So something that has definitely not come as a surprise for me has been the recent hype around Dlamini. I've been on this table single-handedly at times, defending him to the hilt, talking about him in terms of he's one of the most talented players that are playing in the league right now. He's one of the most graceful, certainly to the eye. Football comes so easy to him. There's not a lot of players that I speak about in those terms, and that's maybe just my preference, my taste, and so I humbly acknowledge that. But there's not a lot of players that I speak about in those terms, but you know, not atypical to the South African player is that there's two sides to the coin. So that's very common with South African players that you speak about in those terms, is that there's the other side of the coin where you say, but he lacks the end product or something, right? And that has been the detriment of Dlamini, is that although he seems like, you know, he can caress a football so beautifully, is that he's got a side to him where he does not produce as much as he's got. So sort of his output doesn't match his potential. And yeah, I think that actually has been the reason that he's been gaining a lot of attention. Everyone has sort of been waxing lyrical about him, is because that almost overshadowed his quality. The fact that he wasn't producing has overshadowed his quality, and right now he's turned that on its head, is that people are now talking about how beautiful of a footballer that he is with that left foot, because I think it's mainly due to the fact that he's producing. When he's getting the shot on goal, he's putting in the back of the net. When he's getting a set piece, he's putting it on his teammate's head. When he's getting a free kick, he's putting in the back of the net as well. And so everyone is now suddenly appreciating the quality of Dlamini. And I know there's some of you out there who've also defended Dlamini to the hilt, but I know the large majority of people, I mean, I ran a poll on my Instagram, and I did a video on that on this YouTube channel, and not a lot of people had voted a couple of months back for Dlamini to start as an Orlando Pirates player. And so that has turned now, and I think it's mainly to do with his output. So now what I want to do in this video, as you will have seen from the title of the video, is that I want to put out what I think, what kind of team that we look like with Dlamini, and what kind of team we look like with Monapule Saleng playing on the right wing. Now, Dlamini is the latest of the people that have been keeping Saleng on the bench on that right wing. Earlier in the season, it was Maswanganyi. Karim Kimvidi has played that side as well, and now Dlamini has also emerged as someone who's playing on that right wing, keeping Monapule Saleng on the bench. You guys might say that I like Saleng. You know, I speak about him a lot, and I think he deserves for us to speak about him a lot because of what he did last season and what he's done at times even this season. I want to assure you that it's not a Saleng thing. It's mainly his uniqueness in that we don't have someone who plays like him in Orlando Pirates. And so if Pirates unearth some youngster from somewhere who will deputize, you know, in that right wing position, I assure you I will not be talking about Saleng. I'll be talking about that kind of player to play in that position, because if you look at our options that play as right wing at the moment, is that we've got Dlamini. I mean, we've got Kapinga, who can play there as well, and has played there at times when he's come on in his cameos in the second half as a substitute. I remember a game at Jwaneng in Africa, he was playing there for us as well. We've got Kimvidi, who plays there. We've got Vincent Pule, who plays there as well. And all these names, when you think about the way that they play their football, is that they're not as direct as Saleng. They're not as quick. They're not as threatening in behind as Saleng, and I think that's his uniqueness. Now, sort of piggybacking off of that, I want to talk about that, is that when we're playing with Saleng in that position on the right wing, is that we're a different kind of team than when we're playing with Dlamini in that position. When we're playing with Saleng, we're definitely something I've already touched on, is that we are a threat in behind the opposition. You think about how Saleng plays his football is that he likes some space behind his defenders. He likes to take on his man, beat him for pace, and then have that space to maybe pick ahead if he's going down that touch line, raise his head, find a teammate, put in the back of the net that way, or sort of have the defender trying to cover that space because he knows that he's dangerous coming into the box from the byline. So have the defender want to cover that and then dummy and come inside and take that shot on or cross or pass into his opposition. So obviously Saleng likes that kind of thing. And I think when we're playing with him is that we become more of a threatening team in behind. I think not only that, I think we also have two men rather than one person as a box threat. So again, the other thing with the other players that play in that position when Saleng is not playing is that all of them are sort of outside of the box operators. They like to do their work outside. People like Vincent Pule and Dlamini is that they're more of those creative sparks for the team. So we are definitely a more creative team with that kind of player, and I'll talk more on that. But with Saleng is that he becomes another goal threat for us, because as much as Relebohile Mofokeng is kind of shaping his game as one of those players that likes to chip in with a goal, but it does take a while till you see a Relebohile Mofokeng goal. And I think with Saleng, when he's there, just out of his sheer force of will, his directness, his smelling of the goal, is that he supplements Mabasa as another person who will threaten the goal for us, the opposition's goal for us. So I think it's no coincidence that when we're playing with Saleng, we're scoring more goals. And when we're playing with someone else, we've been struggling with not scoring as many goals. You'll go back to earlier in this year, we weren't scoring as many. I remember there's a time we're playing with Tito on that right wing. We do look like we are solid, we create the chances, but no one's putting the ball in the back of the net because no one's a goal threat. Especially because, there was a time we weren't even playing with Mabasa as well. We're playing with Mahopa. No disrespect to him. He scored some important goals for us. But I think, obviously, Mabasa takes it to another level just with his poacher instinct. But if you've got Saleng as well, then you've got two people who are threatening the opposition's goal, maybe 2.5 with Mofokeng. And no disrespect to him, this is not to do with age. This is to do with he does threaten the goal, but not so much because he also does some of that creative work outside of the box. And now going to Dlamini is that, when we're playing with him, we're definitely more of a fluid team. We're definitely a team that will create more chances. We look more beautiful to the eye. We look like we know what we're doing. We're controlling the opposition. We're controlling the game. And it's ironic that we scored 7 goals with Dlamini. Some of you might raise that maybe in the comment section that, hey, but even when we play with Dlamini, we do score a lot of goals. I think that was a one-off result. 7-0 is a freakish result for me. I think you'll have to do that a number of times to kind of make that case. Sure, we have been scoring the goals, but I also do think it's to do with Tsofatu Mabasa taking half chances, also not taking only the clear-cut chances, but half chances as well. I think we've been scoring more set pieces as well. But I don't think that we are a more threatening goal-scoring team with Dlamini than we are with Saleng. Some of you can look up the numbers. I bet they will attest to what I'm saying, is that with Saleng we obviously score more goals as just a team, right? I know there's a stat that came out and spoke about how the average goals that we scored, I just can't remember it top of my head. But yeah, obviously with Dlamini we are more of a creative team. He gels with Maswanganyi very well, coming inside and then having Libito be the one that gives us the width on the right side. And then obviously on the left we have Mofokeng, who's giving us that width if Hoto's not just overlapping, that's the word. If Hoto's not the one overlapping and Mofokeng come inside. So we obviously become a team that has people in those, zone 14 area, and that zone 14 area in those half spaces. Dlamini likes to play there, Maswanganyi likes to play there, and so we're very good at creating chances and passing the ball around, but there's not as many people on the pitch that will get into the box and put the ball in the back of the net. And we know that that's the problem of Orlando Pirates, just generally speaking, right? Is that we don't put the ball in the back of the net as often as we'd like. And again, ironically, we scored 7, and maybe that's why we're very pleased with that. But it's just not our thing to put the ball in the back of the net. And I think when we're playing with Saleng, as opposed to when we're playing with Dlamini, we are that kind of team. So obviously, you guys, after everything I've said, might think that I lean more towards playing with Saleng than playing with Dlamini. And I don't think that's true. I mean, I have a preference for attacking midfielders because in my sort of short amateur career, if you can even call it that, is that I was a midfielder as well. So I've got just a natural preference for someone like who plays like Dlamini. I used to like Mesut Ozil. I know Kabelo Dlamini, that's his nickname. They call him Ozil. And so I like that kind of player. And so I'm saying this to say that I don't lean towards Saleng for any reason, except the fact that I just want to see my team score more goals. However, I do want to propose what I think is the solution. And the solution, you guys for good reason might say that it's not a good solution, but I'm willing to have that discussion. And I'm going to lay it forth right now. What I think we should do, I think we should actually play with Mabasa and Saleng both on the pitch. So how do we do that? You guys might think that I want to propose that we drop Patrick Maswanganyi or Lebohile Mofokeng, because obviously we play the 4-2-3-1 right now under Jose Rivero. And so the only way Dlamini gets on that pitch is that someone must be sacrificed, either Saleng, either Maswanganyi, or Lebohile Mofokeng on the right. Now, I don't think all of those players should be touched. I think all of them should remain. Saleng should remain for reasons I've stated. Maswanganyi should remain for reasons I will not talk about, but are very obvious. Mofokeng as well. I think what we should do actually is to remove one player from the, that holding midfield, change our formation from 2 holding midfielders and an offensive midfielder to 1 holding midfielder and 2 offensive midfielders. Though those offensive midfielders will have more of a defensive responsibility, to sort of track back and give us that number if needs be. However, I do want to talk about this if needs be because there's not a need in this league for Orlando Pirates to be that conservative, to be that protective. You guys might say, no, the reason why Jose Rivero plays a 4-2-3-1, I beg your pardon, he plays a 4-2-3-1 rather than a 4-3-3 is for tactical reasons, is because when our fullbacks, overlap, that box that remains, the 2 center backs and the 2 holding midfielders, they give us that cover. And I mean, that sounds like a good reason, a good enough sort of rebuttal of my argument. But I also don't think that in this league we need that much protection to start with. So let me just start here. I think in this league, the reason why Pirates is not, breaking ground with the players that we have, part of that reason is because I think we're just too defensive. We don't risk that much. And again, talking about this word risk, I think what we ought to settle on, we obviously are setting up ourselves as a team that wants to press high up in the opposition's half and win the ball there and score. And I think what I would like for us to do is, if we're going to be that, to go all out on that. I beg your pardon. To go all out on that. If we're going to be a pressing team, then let's risk it. I mean, that's something that impresses us about Man City, for example, or Liverpool, Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp, is that these are managers that have the guts to go, you know what, if my risk it all kind of approach is going to mean that at times we concede a few goals, then I'm willing to settle on that. And I guess it's those, I don't want to say the word, of steel that make us admire and have made those teams be 90 plus points team in the English Premiership. And I think you come to South Africa as well. I think Mamelodi Sundowns, and I don't like to spend these episodes speaking about that yellow team from Pretoria. However, at times they will come up because they are the standard setters in our league, and I think part of the reason why they're so successful is that they really just let their players go. going forward. I mean, they play within shape, of course, because that's the kind of head coach they have. He's very tactically sound and that kind of thing. But they play within shape even going forward. However, the numbers that they will commit when they attack is the reason why they are so good, right? And I think the reason why Pirates hasn't been hitting that ceiling is because of just how reserved we are and how much respect we pay around the league. And I think, someone might say, hey, but counterattacks, but I would ask for a body of evidence that shows that Pirates concede a lot of counterattacking goals. And you might say, no, the reason we don't concede counterattacking goals is because we've got that cover of those two defensive midfielder. I might say, hey, but we've never tried out one defensive midfielder and two centre backs. So who gets to say that we will concede when we do that? But even having said that, I want to also propose a way in which we can do that, sort of have cover, but also have our players go forward, right? So obviously Pirates will have a right back who will bump forward. That's sort of a given, thinking about the options that we have right now. I mean, we have Levito, but even if it's not him, because he's obviously a bit advanced in age, we've got Monyane. He's that guy. He's going to go forward. He's not a right back that's going to stay back. We've got a young Dlamini Mkone coming up who seems like he's also a bit of an offensive player, and will take some doing and training him to be a good defender, I think, in the PSL, right? And then we've got Bandile Shandu, who might go as well, but if he stays, he's also that kind of right back who will go forward. But I think what we have on the left back, apart from Dion Hoto, who is a left winger by trade, but does play there for us, to his credit. But if you think about Marco, I think he's someone who's very tactically sound, defensively sound as well. But I mean, he's proven it when he was playing on the right, in that we could have him rather invert to give us that sort of support our defensive midfielder and stay there with him to give us that cover, right? He could sort of invert to be that guy who stays there, and then have our two centre backs remain, and then obviously have the width from our left winger, and then have our full back on the right, then have the freedom and the license to go forward when he deems necessary. And then we'll still have that protection with Marco staying there, I beg your pardon, and then we'll have Kabelo Dlamini play with Maswanganyi, sort of floating around in that zone 14 area, and then you'll have Saleng, coming in and out from that right wing, going into the box, sometimes giving us that width on the right, giving us that box threat, and then you'll have Mufugeng again on the left, and then you can have someone like Tsekgfatso Mabasa as a striker. So that's what I propose. I think just looking at our squad, I think we should be prioritizing our midfielders, because we've got really good midfielders in our team, and I think we shouldn't be prioritizing playing two defensive midfielders when we've got the resources to play in a different way. I think our resources at the moment at Pirates should have us playing in a different formation than we are playing. And I mean, I respect the coach for what he's doing, but I really think that we could be doing more with the players that we have. But yeah, it's just my idea. You guys are allowed to engage with it, to dispute it, and all of that, all in the comment section. I really appreciate it. Otherwise, let me leave it here. Up the mighty Bucks. Cheers. Listen, hit that subscribe button. Do it right now. I demand it. And I thank you for it, for your compliance.